Okay, so today we're diving into a source that makes a really provocative argument about Africa's population growth and what it means for prosperity. And trust me, it starts with a claim that's designed to make you sit up and pay attention. So here's how it kicks off. The source claims that just one single country, Nigeria, is producing more babies than the entire United States and the whole European Union put together. I mean, that's a pretty wild claim, right? So let's look at the numbers the source uses to back this up. And yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. Look at this. The source points out that the US and the EU together have a massive population, right? Almost 800 million people. But they have about 7.1 million births a year. Now look at Nigeria. It has less than a third of that population, but nearly 9 million births annually. See the disconnect? That's the paradox this whole argument is built on. Okay, so let's zoom out from just Nigeria to the entire continent. The source throws out this number, 46 million. That's the number of babies born in Africa in just 1 year. Now, 46 million might just sound like a big number. So to help us wrap our heads around it, the source puts it like this. That's more than the entire population of Canada. It's more than everyone in Poland. It's about twice the population of Australia. And that's happening every single year. Right, so this is where the argument really takes a turn. Because, the source isn't just throwing numbers at us for the sake of it. The key point here is how this population data connects directly to things like wealth and infrastructure. Let's see how they build that case. First up, let's talk money. The source puts the combined GDP of the US and EU at an absolutely staggering $51 trillion. Now, compare that to Nigeria's GDP, which it cites as $188 billion. I mean, the gap is just enormous. And the point is, that's the difference in economic resources available to support each new person. And it's not just about the economy. The source then pivots to physical stuff, to infrastructure. It says the US and EU have something like 230 million buildings. Nigeria? Around 9 million. The argument here is pretty straightforward. Where are all these new people going to live? And this next example really hammers the point home. Take the Netherlands. It has a population of 17 million people, and, according to the source, 10 million buildings. Now look back at Nigeria. It has over 13 times more people, but fewer buildings. Just let that sink in for a second. This leads the speaker in our source material to make this incredibly blunt statement. It's a direct challenge to the idea that a huge population is always a point of pride, and it ties it straight to living conditions. It's a really strong take, and it's absolutely central to the argument being made here. So you might be wondering, how did things get to this point? Well, the source actually looks back about 25 years to show how these population trends have gone in wildly different directions. And the difference is just wow. Look at 1999. Back then, Nigeria's population was pretty similar to Japan's, and not that much bigger than Germany's. But flash forward to today, Germany's population is basically flat. Japan's has actually shrunk a bit, and Nigeria's has doubled. That's an extra 118 million people in just 26 years. And again, to put that number into perspective, the source points out that this increase alone is more than the entire populations of Germany, the Netherlands, and Belgium all added together. That's not Nigeria's total population. That's just the growth. Okay, so we've looked at the past, we've looked at the present. So where is all this heading? The source then looks into its crystal ball, so to speak, and gives a projection for 2050 if things keep going like this. And this is for the whole continent of Africa. The source shows the population jumping from 810 million back in '99 to about 1.5 billion today. And it's projected to hit 2.5 billion by 2050. We're talking about the population more than tripling in just 50 years. That's an incredible rate of growth. And this huge projection leads the speaker to ask some really sharp, practical questions. It's not just about abstract numbers, it's about the real world. Things like, where will all these people live? What are they going to eat? What schools will they go to? What roads will they use? The basic building blocks of a society. And all of this builds up to the source's final point, which is really presented as a direct and pretty urgent warning. And this next quote pretty much sums up the entire argument of the source material. It's arguing that just having more people without the economic and infrastructure growth to support them isn't a strength at all. In fact, it's described as a self-inflicted wound. So what's the endgame here, according to the source? Well, it paints what it calls a frightening outlook. It predicts that poverty levels in Africa could become just overwhelming, that future generations could face extreme shortages of basic resources, and that pressures for mass migration could get much, much more intense. Because of all this, the speaker concludes that the only way forward is through controlled growth. And so, in the end, this entire source really boils down to one fundamental, provocative question for all of us to think about. It really pushes back on that common idea that a big, young population is automatically a good thing, and it forces you to ask, under these conditions, is this growth a strength or is it a punishment?